All right. How many days you have, Paul?
235.
I think I have, congratulations, 536, I think.
Nice.
How about you?
662.
Wow.
Getting there.
Almost 2 years.
November 19th.
Wow. That's hard to do.
No? I mean, it is, but it isn't, as long as, I don't know. I've got a lot of time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can stay focused, I can go to the meetings and I got nothing but time.
Yeah.
Which before was the enemy, the idleness I'd get bored and left to my own devices. I would get in trouble.
Yeah, of course.
But I can I got lots of stuff to occupy that now.
And your 200 some days, how's that journey been overall?
Boy, when I started, I had a lot of work that needed to be done with my family. My journey involved painkillers, and I was. It's not easy to just go get a bottle of painkillers anymore, unless you're gonna go out on the street and buy them. And then I was always scared of what I would get. So, unfortunately, my story involved me, stealing. It's hard for me to say the word even, but stealing, painkillers from my mother-in-law, and it was just. It made me tear up now because you're just not, when you're in that mode, it's like you don't care about anybody but you, you don't think about what the harm you're going to do to the whole family unit, everybody from my stepdaughters on up. You do damage, and
when you're in it, you think it's just you.
Yeah,
you're like, oh,
you're thinking it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
And then, so when I came in, facing that reality and being really honest with myself and not trying to make any excuse for it or anything, just being straight honest with, this is what I did, and I have work to do. And by work, I mean, I need to do the work that I need to do to be sober and clean and not ever have my family have to deal with this again. My wife, my whole family, my wife's side of the family, they've treated me wonderfully, and much closer to them. Than to my side of the family, unfortunately, just because their willingness to be close, so to let me in and, let me be a part of the family and be a part of their lives. So, it's been difficult working my way back. They've been the level of understanding and forgiveness that I've seen in the last 200 days. I would never have thought. And first of all, just, it amazes me, 235 days. I was thinking I got to get 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you first,
and
those first few days,
huge just to get 30,
And you hear guys in the room talk about, 30 days, 90 days when you just have one.
Right.
You're like, how'd you do 30 days? Yeah. Because if you're like me, for myself and when I was drinking, I've never really had 90 days. I may have had a week here and there, but I've never really had an extensive period of time where I wasn't using. So,
right. Yeah.
And, like when I first was in recovery, I would always check that counter every day. Boom, boom. But now so much time goes by.
Right.
And then I check it and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, I catch myself getting. I'll look at it every now and then when I go to a meeting, and I gotta recite my days, and then that's when I'll realize it. But it's hard because you don't want to get too caught up in the days.
Right.
At least for me, I didn't. I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself. I really wanted to do it day by day,
Mhm.
and that's hard to do when you're first, like you're talking about those first few days. To get 30 days, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
That's why chips are, I've heard people say we don't need to do chips. Chips are just, but that's why I think chips are so important.
I like them.
Yeah.
I think they're
important to the community.
Yeah. Because it is just, it's not a big expensive thing, but what it means to you individually to get a 30-day chip, and then you worked hard, you've gotten a 60-day and a 90-day, you know what I mean?
Milestones, yeah.
It means something.
Yeah. I heard my sponsor gave me a little history lesson on the 18-month key tag, and they used to not have anything, but people were like, from 1 to 2 years, they're like, that is such a long time.
A long stretch.
So they nicknamed it the sissy tag or the sissy chip or the resentment chip. And so they came up with an 18-month key tag. But after 2 years, it's just multiple year key tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like you. My father-in-law, I took advantage of he had a stroke years ago. He's no longer here, but it took a lot of his eyesight. And I always say I took on his mantle, because after he passed away, I lost my eyesight. I'm like, that's what I get, huh? But I would call him up and I would butter him up and talk to him. I feel terrible about it. Part of my conversation was legitimate because I like talking to the guy, but then I'd always go, hey, I got a bad headache, or I got this, or I got that. You got any? Because I knew he had pain pills laying around, and I would always get some from him, and I took quite a few from him. I was a medicine cabinet checker. And he's one of those guys. My mother-in-law's on my amends list because of that reason. Because she made it clear at some point in time before I cleaned up from opiates. She said our pain pills are in the safe. They put them in the safe.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, and I know what it's like. It's it's very humbling, and it's these people, they love you, and the addiction doesn't care about love. You take advantage of that love.
That's so true. Yeah, it doesn't care about anything. It cares about getting high and like we've talked before, getting high and not feeling withdrawal.
Right.
Feeding the addiction, feeding the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because once you take it, I know for me it was, I would drink a bottle and then I would say, okay, that's going to be good for me. But I knew as soon as I took that last drink, it was like, all right, where am I going to get my next one? And alcohol is easy to get, but there was still an extensive amount of planning because I did something the other day. I forgot, and it was a question that asked, "What's the worst thing you've done for money?" Or "What's the craziest thing you've done for money?" And I put stolen. Because I may not have stolen it from I may not have went into people's houses and stolen their money, but I stole it from my family. I stole it from, even if it was for my wife and kids, it was still. I would go and take my kids' piggy bank money, that type of stuff. And it was, so because you're constantly trying to figure out, where you can get your next drink, how you can get away to go get it. Everything was just so planned out. And that's why, for me, I realized that alcohol became a god to me.
Mm-hmm.
It became a deity because it took all energy of mine to that went towards that.
Yeah. I mean, that's where one of the things that I wake up quite often still. I wake up in the morning and I feel this sense of relief,
Yeah.
Oh,
Take
yeah.
a deep breath and I'm thinking, I no longer have to get up and spend a substantial part of my day figuring out how I'm going to get painkillers to put in my body. Because, a certain amount, when you get to a certain amount of taking them, you're going to have to replenish that on a regular basis. So you might last a day or two
Right.
with, whatever stash you get, but then in a day or two, you're going to have to start looking again. And it's like a sort of beast hanging over you that is just demanding that you do this. You get up and you do this, no matter how tired you are, no matter what else you got going on. This takes precedent today. I got to get this, and it's been a truly terrible life to live. Really has.
I shared on this podcast, I had working in the hospital, I had 3 different doctors that I knew personally, and they're all writing me prescriptions. And
Right.
so I was working 3 pharmacies, and it's terrible, and then you get that fresh bottle with all those pills. You're like, oh, this is great. And you start burning through them, and then you're shaking the bottom of the bottle, then you're busting them in half. There's no cutting down.
Yeah. You're fooling yourself. You're telling yourself, I'm going to slow down this time. Right now, I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to stop, but I'm not going to take, 6 or 7 at a time. I'm going to take 3.
There's no taper.
And it doesn't happen. You try it, and about an hour after you take 3, you're in there taking 3 or 4 more because you're like, well, that didn't work because you built up such a tolerance to it. You can't. Your body can't taper it, without help, without the proper help. And
for me, I was no longer. Again, I haven't been addicted to opiates for 10 years.
right.
But I know, well, it's like it was yesterday. It was terrible. It was that bad. But for me, I wasn't taking them to catch a buzz anymore. I was taking them just to feel normal.
Yeah, just to
function.
Yeah. Yeah, just to make it through your day. There was no high left. You weren't getting high. You were just functioning through the day. That's all you were doing.
Yeah.
It was keeping you from withdrawing, and getting sick and being on, feeling like you couldn't get out of bed and every joint hurt. And, and then you start looking at it on the other side, 235 days into the other side. I look at it and I think, how stupid was I that I put that into my body knowing what it was going to do to me, knowing that that's the effect it was going to have on me after the sort of whatever I got from it that made me want it emotionally. All that was coming after that was pain. It was like putting poison in your body. It's not normal for every joint in your body to hurt. It's not, it's not normal for you to feel like you're crawling out of your own skin. And,
the level of anxiety too, that like you were saying, now you have that peace when you wake up. It's amazing how much your anxiety, because you think you have these issues, you're depressed, you're anxious, and then you stop. You get some time in between you and using, and it's like some of that anxiousness is taken away.
Yeah.
A large part of it. Paul, where did you grow up here in Bakersfield? Where did you grow up at?
Yeah, I grew up most of my life in Rosedale. My mom still lives in the house I pretty much grew up in. I think I was 12 when we moved there. And, so she's still in the same house. I've been around Rosedale most of my life. And
Did you, grow up brothers and sisters? Only child?
I have an older brother, 5 years older than me. And when I was 16, my parents took in one of my cousin's children. Him and his wife had drug issues, and they had to go to jail for a period of time. And so my mom and dad took him in, and he is, when I refer to him, generally I refer to him as my brother.
Yeah.
Because, I've watched him grow up. He did eventually go back with his parents, and but he was always at the house. And then later, when he got older, he came and stayed with my parents for several years before we got married. And so yeah, he's my brother in my heart, and his mother is such an inspiration, because she had, like I said, drug issues and was whatever she had going. I don't know exactly, but I know it was bad enough that she had to go to jail for a year. And she came out. She still went through a few struggles, but she straightened her life up. She got completely clean. She ran her and her husband, my cousin. They ran AA groups or NA groups. Not is what they ran. They ran NA and AA groups for years, and he had passed on from liver failure. But she is still around. She had went on to school and got her degree, and went so far as to get her master's. And she does, she worked for the county for, 20 some years, and retired recently. So, I mean, it's an inspiration, the life that she made for herself after what drug addiction had done to her,
Yeah, it's amazing the things that we can do when we're not using. It truly is. It's that same sense of peace and relief. It's almost as if you get to reinvent or figure out what you like to do. So there's certain things that I thought I liked to do, and I don't like to do them. Camping, and there's certain other things that I used to do when I was drinking. But now, though, on the other side of that too, is there's other things that other interest. My mind's open to be able to learn about other things. Even if it's just reading about it, right. Maybe not doing it, but reading about it and learning about it in another way. So. It's pretty. It's just the addiction takes so much from you. It's not. It doesn't let up,
because that's your focus.
Yeah,
like you're saying, all your time and energy, and I mean, how much enjoyment do you really get out of life when that's at the forefront of of everything? Your life revolves around that.
Yeah.
Instead of, that trying to incorporate that into your life, that is your life. We were talking about that today in a meeting, just planning for a vacation, going away, making sure everything was to have enough of whatever that substance is to last me through, when I'm going to be away.
Yeah, and you never wanted to get on an airplane because you couldn't carry it with you, or unless you had the prescription. I remember that with weed. I couldn't carry it with me. So, yeah, it's definitely something that centers.
It's consuming. It consumes your whole life.
I think, and I think that's why I look around and I see a lot of people who have cleaned up and been sober or clean for a period of time. A lot of them have really done something with their lives. And part of that, I think, is the fact that all that effort all that focus that you put into drug addiction, you do find yourself with extra time. And by nature, we like to focus on things, I think, or we learn to through the process of being. I'm not saying anything is good about being an addict. I'm not. But I think that through that process of focusing on something because it was so important to us, that once we get away from that, and I know I find it easier, I'm retired, but I've gone back to work for a couple of days a week now. And I find it easier to really like focus on what I'm looking at than I did when I was working before. So
yeah, you really get to to hone in on what you want to, on what you're doing. Where did addiction for you start later on in life, or was it something that was always there, or did you?
No, it was definitely later on.
Let me get him out of there. Get up. Come on, baby.
He's like, I don't want to go.
Oh, he's solid too, huh?
Yeah, he's heavy. Ooh, made the blood rush to front of my head.
So addiction for me started later in life. Neither one of my parents had any sort of addiction. Nobody even so much as drank in the home. I saw my dad when he would go out to eat with his buddies, and I got older, and he'd let me come along or bring me with him even when I was grown. He would occasionally have a glass of wine, but that was not even every time. It was just very occasional. So I had nothing in my past that pushed me towards that, but I did have a lot of anxiety. And even as a young, he's really young. And so I didn't know how to deal with that stuff. So for me, I got married when I was in my early 20s, and it just wasn't. It wasn't 100% of what I thought it would be, and from there, I had other vices. Not addiction, but I had other vices.
Yeah.
We get, and that sort of calmed my nerves and made me. I didn't feel as stressed. But when my first wife got ill, she got severely ill, and I couldn't sleep. I was so stressed about what was going on. I would spend time trying to help take care of her, plus work,
Yeah.
And I remember, I couldn't tell you the day it was, but I remember vividly thinking I was so wore out one night that I thought I'm going to take, I had back issues and stuff. So there were painkillers always around, and I thought I'm going to take a couple of painkillers tonight and see if I can sleep. And when I did that, that was the first time I felt that feeling of, for me, everything, all this stress and stuff it didn't go away, but it got pushed.
Yeah.
It was still there, but it was back in the back of my head, and it wasn't beating on me, and I wasn't thinking about it. And I had a good night's sleep, and I thought, that's the ticket. I'll do that. And then, of course, as it took a while for it to happen, but 2 turned into 3, and 3 turned into 4. And then, pretty soon I found myself, like you were talking, having a couple of doctors, going to different pharmacies. This was before everything cracked down pretty hard. And so I got deep into addiction that way. My whole time my wife was ill, I was getting deeper and deeper. I still took care of her, but I was sinking, So after she passed away, I went into a deep spiral after that. I didn't know what to do with my life. You know, I had been with the same person for most of my life. You know, I was 42 when she passed, and we'd been together since I was 22. So
sorry to hear that.
all of a sudden, being at home alone, you know, at night, and you know, it's just I had to learn. I get used to. People say you got to get used to being alone, but that's not the way. You have to learn to be alone. That's what I come to realize. You have to learn to be alone. When you haven't been alone since you were 21, 22 years old, you don't even know how to live alone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't cook. I didn't do any of that stuff, you know. So now I had to learn how, and I started just forcing myself to go to like movie theaters on my own. That was a big one for me. I just forced myself to go to a movie, and I felt uncomfortable and everything, but I forced myself to sit through a movie alone, and then you know go to eat dinner by myself. And I had friends and stuff I could have asked, but that's not the point. The point was I had to learn to do this stuff alone. But man, the addiction got really out of control when there was no one around to sort of, you know, I didn't all of a sudden I didn't have to hide from anybody. All I had to do was do whatever I was doing, you know.
Yeah.
That was a question we had talked about on another podcast, was because early in my recovery, my wife had said that to me. She said, you know, if the kids and I weren't in your life, you would still be using. And at first I was like, no, heck no. You know, I would have it all under control. And then after when I got more honest with myself, I was like, you know, you're right.
Yeah.
But now we have a different, you know, since she's seen how far I've come in recovery, she has changed her opinion on that. And I'm a codependent, man. I can't be alone. I've been married to the same woman for over 25 years.
Yeah. What do you, I mean,
you know,
just if my wife I'm married again. My wife goes out of town for a night or two, you know, on her own for work or something. I'm like, this is weird, you know, because I haven't slept alone much in my life. You know, there's always been somebody there that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm codependent on my wife. My wife does a lot for me.
Oh yeah.
You know, she does a ton. So, you know, do you think in hindsight that feeling of learning how to be alone, was that in any way part of the addiction telling you? Because if you got around people and you didn't isolate yourself, then they would know what was going on. Was that a way for yourself to protect you, so you can? So that's why you made yourself be alone.
I hadn't thought about that till you said it, but yeah, definitely. I didn't at that time. I really didn't want a lot of people around. I wanted it to be kind of just. I wanted to be able to do whatever I was doing and not have to answer to anybody about. You know, like you said, when you have to find a way to go get whatever.
Yeah.
I was at a point where I thought, I don't want to answer to anybody. I just want to be here by myself, and I'll turn the lights off at night and watch TV and get high.
There's a NA saying it's an addict alone is in bad company.
That's that's so true.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's very true. Very true. So yeah, there's a big part of that, of isolation, you know, and then blessed to be where I'm at. I'm blessed to have all of my family still around me. I really am.
Yeah. How are you? For me, when I was, now that I'm away from it, a big part of isolating, I'm actually okay by myself, but I say that I also haven't lost, my wife. I haven't gone through and what you've gone through, but I often, if I were to be by myself, or when a lot of it, like I said, was because of the self. For me, it was because I wanted to beat up on myself.
Yeah.
I wanted. That's where that isolation. I think any addict or anybody that's alcoholic can kind of relate to that. But how now that for me, a big part of recovery is being around other people and not isolating. How is your self talk now? How are you doing with that? How are you seeing yourself now as a man, human, whatever?
I'm definitely a better husband because I was not a very good husband. My wife now, Alyssa, she's put up with a lot in the 7 years we've been married, and I'm definitely a better husband. Yeah, isolation is not good for me at any time, and I like people. You guys have been around me some. I like talking. I like going to the groups. I make sure, if I can at all, that I get to groups still. I try to get 3 days a week if I can. I try to never get less than 2, but I try to get 3 at least. And that is like that's like feeding my soul now. Like if I'm staying on that sort of plane of that, of being there, then I don't feel like I'm drifting, but like you get caught up sometimes with different stuff, family or work or something, and I have missed like a full week, maybe a couple of days, after maybe a little week and a half, and I feel myself like I don't usually use this word, but I mean but yearning is the word that comes to my mind. I feel myself yearning to be back in the group of people, to be back with all of you, and just be in that mix and listening to the people around me. I'm a better human being. I still have a long way to go, but I'm a better human being than I was 235 days ago. That person and this person, there's no comparison. And it's taken me a lot to work on being able to say that, because you hate yourself so bad.
Yeah.
You hate yourself so bad. To say anything good about yourself feels like blasphemy, So for me to sit here and be able to say that I'm a better person than I was, it's difficult, but it makes me happy that I'm at a point where I can finally say that, because that's just recently that that's working with a counselor and therapist and a
group settings. Yeah.
Because just that hatred of yourself is so powerful.
But if you look at the evidence now of what's happened in the last 230, 35 days or whatever, I think it helps to stay in that. I think that's why they talk about staying in the present so much.
Yeah.
Is because as soon as we start thinking about the things that we did, and it's real easy for us to go back and say, man, you really were a piece,
Yeah.
you really were. But if you look at the evidence of what you're doing now and how you're helping other people, because I see you in the rooms, I know the effect that you have on other people. And if you don't know that, everybody else does. We see it when you're in the room and you're talking to them. You take the time, to help other people. So just look at that.
Thanks for saying that, brother.
Yeah, look at that. To look at that evidence now, that that's what's so good about recoveries, because now, you know, you don't want any. I don't want anybody to go be an alcoholic or an addict. But gosh, we're so blessed to be an alcoholic or an addict.
Yeah.
You know, because we've had that desperation where nothing else is going to work. We have to do something.
Yeah.
We have to, you know, otherwise we're going to, you know, continue stealing, continue being, you know, bad husbands, bad wives, you know, bad, just all around human. And so I think it's important to remember, you know, look at the evidence of today of where your life is and how well, you know, you are doing, you know. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that, you know, I've seen I didn't know you before, but I can see when you're wrestling with stuff within the rooms and in the groups and stuff like that.
Right.
And I see you coming out of the other side of that. And that's one of the other things that we all get to experience and share is watching other people's lives change. You know, I know that was for me, it was nice because I got to, my life changed, but it was also cool watching other people behind me, that light bulb turn on. And you know, when it happens, it's like, oh, okay, he gets it now, you know, or they get it, she gets it.
Right.
You know, it's an amazing thing to.
And it stays that. I mean, I'm still watching people that I don't. I mean, I try to make a point within the group that we're with. I try to make a point when new people come in to greet them and know them and get to know their names and stuff and try to be a part of their journey. But you know, there's few that I don't know, and I'm just watching them, and you can see it. You can see, just like you said,
Yeah.
They'll come in kind of confused and reluctant, and then you'll see just one day you come in and it's like something has changed.
Yeah.
They've in a lot of ways decided they are an addict, or you know, it takes people a little bit of time. You know, I read that pamphlet early on, and I knew I was an addict, but I read the pamphlet, "Are You an Addict?" And I shocked myself when I answered like all the questions in there. I think there's 20 questions, and I answered them all as honest as I could. And I answered yes to 18 questions.
Hmm.
And I was like, holy crap.
The only test you got an A on.
I was like, I knew I was an addict, but I didn't think I would be like,
Yeah.
you know, because we like to, as humans, we like to sort of class ourselves, right? Like I'm an addict, but I'm not that bad of an addict, right? There are other people worse addicts, and then
we constantly
came in, and then and then I just it really helped me because I instantly looked at it and went, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
I'm as bad an addict as any other addict, so I can't classify myself anything more or less than anyone else. So
I struggle with that too. When I was going through the rehab
right.
That we were going through, I would never classify I would always say, you know, my name's Chris and I have a drug problem, but you know, I would dance around it. And it really wasn't until I started attending meetings post-program and I would hear people very comfortably and they were so confident, my name's so-and-so and I'm an addict. My name is so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic. You know, there's like a release and being able to,
for sure,
to know that about yourself.
Yeah. It's that peace that you get. That's that waking up and not having that anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's shameful when you first have to start to come to grips with it, you know, that you're an addict or that you're an alcoholic.
I didn't know I had a disease.
Yeah.
I thought I was just wired differently than I mean, which is also true, but I didn't know this was a disease.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was, you know, I just thought I was just a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I felt that too. Like I look back at some of the journals that I wrote, because I would write in journals to release some of the stress and the pressure. And I wrote over and over, I'm just broken. I'm just a broken person. I wrote that I was a throwaway.
Mm-hmm.
Like when God was making people, I was one of the ones that got messed up. So I was a throwaway. I was broken and I didn't, you know what I mean? That's how I looked at myself.
Felt the same verbatim, the same exact thing, Paul. Honestly, I was made with spare parts.
Yeah.
I was not by far one of his masterpieces.
Right. I that's honestly how I looked at myself. And so, until and it took me a while to accept the disease thing. I was like, well, I was quick to accept it for other people. I would say, I can see that. I would come home and tell my wife, they're talking about being a disease. I can really see that on a lot of these people. But when she would ask me if I felt like that, I just couldn't. I couldn't let forgiveness of myself come in heavy enough for a long while to be able to say that I felt that was true for me. So, like I said, I've been working. Therapy has helped me. I don't have I wasn't beaten as a child. I didn't have any, there's no physical or sexual violence, anything like that. I had a great family, but at the same time, the way I was raised in the sort of the configuration of how I was raised and how my parents interacted with each other, it did leave me with just, I was anxiety ridden. I felt responsible for, their happiness, and I would joke around to try to make them happy because they were not always happy together. And I think by 13 years old, I had ulcers bad enough. I had to go to the hospital stay in the hospital for a week. And, and I played sports and everything like that. That was a way to release all that for me, was to get into some sort of aggressive.
Right.
I'm not naturally aggressive, but to go play a sport that was aggressive. Like, I'm not aggressive to people around me, but playing a sport, it was okay. Like I could be aggressive if I played football, and it was actually, the more aggressive I was, as long as I was staying within the rules, the more it got attention, right? More
right.
It got people around me to say, oh, that's really good, right? So it was a great way for me to, at the time, I thought it was a great way for me to release the stress and the pressure. But in reality, it didn't. It was just a pressure valve release. It wasn't doing me any good. So, but therapy.
What are you doing? Sorry to interrupt you, but what are you doing on a regular basis now, daily basis to make? So you had brought up, and he was alluding to, what would happen if I was alone. What am I doing to make sure that I don't go back into drinking? And a lot of that for me is being mindful of my alcoholism, being mindful of my state of mind, my emotional state, my mental state. What are you doing on a regular basis now that has helped you stay mentally fit?
Well, like I talked about, I try to make the meetings. I do have a sponsor in NA. He's a wonderful sponsor. There's a couple of NA meetings that I like, but because of my limited driving ability, there's one on Brim Hall that I go to on Wednesday nights if I can, and so I stay connected with that. I have taken. I like my sponsor a lot because he has he's kind of the mindset that it's not a race. Let's get into this book and let's figure it out for real. Not saying other people don't. I'm just saying it's not a race. And for me, that's what I wanted. I wanted to take it slow and kind of absorb everything along the way. So we started with reading several of the pamphlets, and he had me write a 1-page my interpretation of what it was saying to me, a little 1-page essay on each one of them, and then he had me read the book cover to cover, and then I've just started in the last month. I've started my first step because it's a workbook.
Right.
I've started working on that, and I know there are people who are at the place I am who are much further down the road in the steps, but this is working for me really well. I feel very connected to it, and it's just good. This way he's doing it is good for me, and he's been sober and clean for him mostly, but he's been sober and clean for 9 years.
Nice.
So, and he says, all I do is I'm doing what my sponsor had me do. And I look at that and say, if this got him clean for 9 years and counting, then this looks like something I want. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just meetings are important. Meetings for me are the most important thing, I think.
It's my church.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I can understand why you say that. It is where I go. Like I said, it's like
there's a spiritual thing that happens too.
Yeah, it feeds my soul. And that really is kind of a spiritual thing. I never thought what I said, but that's how I feel about it. It feeds my insights, and it feeds my heart and my brain and everything that would tell me to go get high. It feeds that when I'm there. Mm-hmm. And the more I feed that, the less I feed the other parts of the other voice that's telling me to go grab a pill somewhere and get high.
Right. Because that atmosphere it's a place of healing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a spiritual battle. Yeah. However you're going to look at it, mental, spiritual.
Yeah, there's always somebody a little worse off than you, and always somebody a little bit better than you. So there's anything that you can glean from anybody, because it's such a wide spectrum, and it's that when you talk about things in there, it's that relatability. Mm-hmm. You may not have gone through the same things, but you feel the same feelings. Mm-hmm. That you guys know exactly what I mean when I say that, I was, worried about my next drink. You guys know that feeling, what that feels like, where there's, thank God there's not, my wife doesn't have that, thank God your wife, it's not, it's a good thing that they don't, but because we do, when you go into the rooms like that, there's a relatability, mm-hmm. and you can really, I learn something every time I go. Every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never been and not come away going, oh, some meetings are obviously touch you more than others, but right. I have never left a single meeting thinking I didn't get anything out of that, or I wish I hadn't gone. I've never come out feeling like that.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always, especially if you're going with an open mind, if you're going, I've seen people defeated, they're like, this is pointless, but I don't think their heart and soul is, and I'm not judging them. this is my opinion. They may not have been to that place to where
they can keep digging.
Right. Whereas me at this point, at this stage in my recovery, I was it was do or die.
Yeah.
So,
That's how I felt.
yeah, I was like, I'm going to succumb to this thing if I don't work it out somehow. And that's why, like, I had a meeting this afternoon. And it recharged my batteries.
I bet.
It was just, and there were only 4 of us in there, but it was a nice, intimate, small meeting. And it was just, everybody had plenty of time to air out whatever was going on. And it was great. It was church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a rough week last week and brought a lot of old stuff up. Had a buddy whose wife had passed away, a good friend of mine. I knew her not extremely well, but I knew her over the years from just being at his house and, talking to her and seeing her. And she had cancer and she had passed. And just the feelings of knowing what he feels like, you know what I mean? Like, some of the guys that I was with, they were like, well, let's go down and, like at the graveside, funeral, at the graveside, they were like, let's go down and talk to him. And I was like, they were like, you coming? And I was like, nah, I'm not going right now. And they're like, why? I said, because he doesn't really want to talk to you guys right now. I was like, he just wants to spend his last couple moments with his wife. This is the last, I know she's in her casket and his clothes and everything, but this is the last moments he's going to have to say whatever he has to say to her. So why don't you leave him alone? We're going to reception after. We'll talk to him there. And so it was kind of like that sort of empathy part of it really got a hold of me and brought back a lot of memories, the bad memories of when my first wife passed away. And so it did kind of just, it was almost like a plow going through that part of my life and just digging it all back up.
Yeah.
So I did struggle with that a bit last week. And I came to a meeting. And one of the meetings, I don't know if it was Thursday. Well, I don't think it was Thursday. But anyway, whatever meeting it was that I brought it up in, I left there feeling better having brought it up and talked about it. Because I don't want to throw that stuff out just anywhere, my wife hears all of my problems and stuff, but she was busy. So, one of my stepdaughters is in from Colorado. So I know she's spending her time enjoying her daughter. She doesn't see, that many times a year. And so, I just went and vented and just told them I was hurting and I could feel I didn't want to use, that wasn't it. It was, and that was kind of the point I had is 235 days ago, there would have been no doubt.
Yeah.
That would have been a great excuse for me. I'd tell myself, well, this is just too much. I need to push these feelings down. And I'd be out the door looking for something, and so I didn't do that, which was made me kind of, it was great. It's one of the first times, in many years that I didn't give in or even really have a big problem in that area saying no this time, just telling myself it wouldn't help.
Yeah, they say it lasts 15 minutes, the craving and the thought process of wanting to use, and you feel so good when you do come out, because I have those feelings too. We all have it doesn't happen very often now, but you get those feelings of this would be a perfect time to drink, no matter what the situation was, and when you make it through that and you go, gosh, man, I can't even believe I thought of, why did I even think that? Why did that even come up? Why would I want that misery? Because you also remember, the few days leading up to you getting sober, what is something that you would, not that you would have listened, But what would something that you would have told your 42-year-old self now, thinking back, to help him get through that?
You're right. I wouldn't have listened to, hey, knucklehead, get sober. But I think I would have told myself that lean on your friends. I had a lot of friends who would have helped me if I'd have just reached out to them, And I'm blessed now because I have this whole new group of friends, right? Plus I have all my old friends as well. But I've heard from them now that I've sort of confided in all of them. I'm confided of all of them my issues and what has been going on. I've heard, from everybody almost every time they say, we never knew any of this. Why didn't you tell us? And, we would have been there. And I know that is true, but I just had a hard time talking about my issues with people.
Yeah.
I could listen to theirs all day long and I could be sympathetic and I could be, but I just couldn't talk about mine and I couldn't bring myself to. So I think that's the main thing I would tell myself is lean on your friends, people who really love you and care about you. These people you've been friends with for 30 years, at that point in my life, 42, I'd been friends with them for 25, a lot of them 25 or 30 years. And I didn't lean on that resource when I should have. I think it would have made a difference in the addiction not lasting the length that it did. And I think if I had really reached out and leaned on people around me that I knew cared about me during Kim, my first wife, during her illness, I think that I could have avoided a lot of this. But the act of pulling all that and sucking it inside of me and just being like, I'm going to take care of this stuff myself and I don't need anybody else to help me, really started me down the road, the wrong path. It put me on a path that I couldn't sustain. I couldn't deal with it on my own. I needed help. I needed help from people around me, and I just didn't ask for it. People were there. I just didn't ask for it, and they didn't know what to do. If you don't ask, people don't know. Don't assume people know what you're going through because they don't unless you tell them.
Yeah.
Do you think that up until 235 days ago, was there another place in time? I mean, I'm asking you to look back, and it's kind of a
yeah.
Do you think there's another point where you had hit rock bottom to where you think your friends could have actually helped you in recovery at that point in time?
Yeah, because it's kind of like it took what it took.
Right.
Yeah. I like I said, I don't know that I would have listened. I think maybe I look at it in a sense of how bad it got, like maybe I feel like the thing I feel like is the addiction is part of me. Mm-hmm. I have an addictive personality. I have the disease of addiction. I'm always, and I look at my life now and I can see this, that I've always went hard after things that I've always went hard at things, really hard, like sports and stuff like that over the years. My job, I worked at UPS for many years. I went hard at that. So I think what I think is I think that if I'd reached out and depended on my friends more, I think that I would not have gotten to the point of taking, I mean, you and I have talked about it a little bit, it's hard to even say sometimes, but,
yeah,
45, 40, I've hit more than 40, but 40 was about where I was at, 40 Percocets a day, so I was literally trying to kill myself every day. And I wasn't recognize that that wasn't what I was trying to do.
Right.
I was trying to just feel normal.
Right.
But that's where the addiction had taken me to, where I could have dropped at any moment, As we all know, with opiates, it doesn't take much, It gets to a point, it just will shut down your respiratory system.
And then there's the Tylenol that'll hit your liver really hard.
Yes, it'll destroy
I don't
your
know
liver.
how my liver is still.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised my organs are still working, but I've been blessed so far. But yeah, it's. I think that maybe it would have diminished time. Maybe I wouldn't have got as bad.
Yeah.
And but I will tell you, getting clean was not necessarily easy. But looking back, it was the most worthwhile thing I've ever done. Those few days of withdrawals that were rough. I ain't gonna bullshit anybody. Sorry, I mean to cuss, but I'm not gonna give anybody. Those days are rough, but you get through 3 or 4 days, and things start getting better and better, and you don't feel right for a few months. A couple, 3 or 4 months. But you're not withdrawing. You just don't, it takes a while for your body to adjust. But man,
Yeah.
what you get on the other side of that is astounding.
Yeah. It's when you first in it literally is minute by minute, hour by hour, where you're just trying to, I remember when I first started, in, the program, there was like, I would break up the day till like, there was like something at 10 that would break it up for me. And then, okay, now I need to get to 12. And then now I need to get to 3. And now I need to get to 6. And then I can get to bed and I'll be fine.
That's
it was kind of like I was breaking up my day.
I would do that too. Yeah, definitely.
What is something that you would tell somebody that wants to get sober? You kind of hinted on it already, but is there anything that you would add to somebody who's on the fence, maybe knows they have an issue, and rather with alcohol or with drugs that you would tell them?
You found yourself in this spot, and the only way to get out is to go straight through it. It's not good. There's nothing about it that's good, but at the same time, it's not as bad as you envision it to be. You'll find yourself starting to feel better physically quicker than you thought you would. And when you get to that place, if you push yourself through it, use the people around you as a resource, and then continue using them, using phone numbers, calling people. I've called people, and it's most of the time when I've called people, we've not talked about how bad of a craving or whatever I was having at the time. I've had a lot of people call me. I generally don't talk to them about their craving because I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to tell them to get through a craving, but what I do know is, like they say, about 15 minutes, a craving is going to be gone. And I love to talk to people, especially people I care about. And it's not going to bother me to talk to you for 20 minutes. And I've done it several times, people have done that with me, and I've followed up and done that with other people. And, what I find is just talking about sports or hell, I don't know, whatever they want to talk about, whatever you can talk about. And about 15, 20 minutes later, they're like, you know what? Craving's gone. Thanks for talking to me. And they're ready to go. And So use those resources. People aren't, it helps me when someone calls me. It helps me. And I know that sounds selfish, but I'm not meaning it selfish, but it does. It helps me when someone calls me and says, I have a craving, talk to me for a little bit. It enriches my life. And whatever you do, start the journey towards being clean, because the life you will have on the other side of that is worth the journey. It really is. It's worth the journey, because I was shocked. And I'm not saying everybody's life does this, but, for me, I was shocked how quickly things, my marriage turned around. Just by showing people, not talking to people and telling them what I was going to do, but just by showing up. I'm there to all my grandkids' sporting events now when I can be. I'm missing one tonight for this, but this was worthwhile.
Oh,
so. No,
sorry.
No. This is worthwhile. This is something that he'll have plenty of games. But my point is that I'm present. Talk a lot about being present and living in the present moment, and there really is a lot to that. People around you feel it when you're all of a sudden, they haven't seen you around doing anything with the family for ever how long, because let's face it, none of us really want to be around our families when we're high.
Yeah.
Or we're trying to get high.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're there, and they start seeing that, and they start seeing you show up and be part of their lives. And eventually they start seeing that you're not using, and your life will change. Your life will change in a way that I know most of you don't think possible, because I know that's how I felt. I didn't think it was possible for my life to be what it is right now.
Yeah, you're participating in life and the loved ones around you. It's such a big thing for you to talk about too, the picking up the phone, because at times it can seem like it's so heavy.
Yeah.
To make a phone call to, I don't want to call them, and it's such for whatever reason, I mean, we all have cell phones on us now, and it's like, you would think it would be the easiest thing to do, send a text, make a call, but it is so hard. So, that practice of, I think that's why it's important that like you're doing, is when you go into a room, you're getting phone numbers, you're calling, you're introducing yourself, because that's practice for when you are going to need it. And it is such a big help. It sounds, I thought it was weird when people would say that it helps me more than it helps you, if you call me, but it really does. There's something to it that really, that just, I could be in a bad mood. Somebody call me, and it just, Chris, you called me the other day, that was, and it was for my help, but you called me, and because you knew I asked you guys to pray for me, and but even that, I got off the phone and I felt a little lighter.
Yeah.
But when people call you for help, or they want to talk to you or seek out something because they see something in you, it's just, it brings you, it really does, like it brings it full circle for you. Like you're doing something right. It kind of validates that you are on the right path too.
Yeah.
That's considered being of service.
Yeah.
When you do that, there's so many, being of service isn't necessarily a service commitment.
Right.
But when you do something like that, that's being of service. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
I leave my phone on all night.
Yeah.
I want people to call me. I dare people to call me.
Yeah.
I'd rather you call me, like you guys are talking about the 15-minute window of a craving. I want to be able to talk someone off that ledge.
Yeah.
Because the literature again says we can only keep what we have by giving it away. And that's true.
It is.
So I'd rather someone call me and say I'm struggling. Because I mean, if I had to wake up my wife to go do a 12-step call or call someone and say, hey, look, someone's hurting, I would do it at that moment. Instead of them calling me and saying I made a bad decision or hearing something terrible happen to that person as a result of a bad decision.
Right.
I'd be like, and I know I've heard those stories. I don't want to face that where like, God, if you would have just called me.
Yeah. If you're around it long enough, if you get enough sober days, you'll have those times where you wish somebody called you.
Yeah.
As opposed to not, because the consequences are, extreme.
Right.
We're not talking about, we're not talking about small consequences here.
It's life or death.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And if it's a person, wanting to make that call, that'll eventually go away. I mean, you can call anybody anytime.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the fellowships that are out there, is that you can call someone and it goes from me to we.
Yeah.
Is that eventually those cravings will go away. Those things will go away. And that's why we have all those other tools, the sponsors and the group setting. You can find a meeting. I have Zoom information for 24/7 marathon meeting.
Yeah. It's amazing that I think I started drinking a lot like what you were talking about, Paul, and that is I can do it, and you build up anxiety when you fail at it, but you want to do it all on your own. I can do it. I'm a man, I can handle it. And then you go from that to when you just say that you need help. And you, first step, take admit that you need help, that you are powerless over it. That then a relief actually happens, and you can live a good life. It's that help that we're constantly running for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That really got me in trouble in the first place, because I wouldn't take help. And
like you said, it gets better.
Yeah.
It gets better. And I kind of want to redact what I said in the very beginning of the meeting. You asked me about my days and how, if that was hard. It was harder in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was at its hardest in the beginning.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
I'm not coasting through this.
Yeah.
I never for one second want to ever, I'll never say I've got this.
Yeah.
No, Chris does these online meetings. He's really got a hold on the online meetings. He sends me these reminders, and talking about helping my heart. I mean, every time I get something from Chris on a reminder, even though I don't make the meetings as much as I want to, because I'm at a lunch somewhere or doing something with work or something. I always love them when I do join in. I always enjoy them a great deal, and it just makes me feel good that when he, I'm assuming he sends these out to various people, and when he's sending those out, and he thinks to send them out to me.
Yeah.
Chris was one of the first people I met when I started the program that we come from, and so I've always had a special sort of soft spot in my heart for Chris. And then with you, I kept seeing this Sam with a phone number up on the whiteboard, and I kept going, "Who's Sam?" And they were like, "Oh, he's graduated already. He's an alumni. You'll see him. He just put his number up there." And so I put it in my phone. I thought, if this guy's going to leave his number around, I'll put it in my phone because I might need it someday. And then, of course, I met you, and we've come to be friends as well. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate you asking me to do this today. I know you asked me one other time, and I had to kind of flake out on you. I apologize, but this has been just the ability, just to sit here and talk about how important, I know the importance, but I start living my life every day, right?
Yep.
And that's this opportunity to just reflect on these last, basically a little over half a year. And really, I was really thinking about, the last day, a couple days, I've been really thinking about how much different is my life. And, it's so much different. My relationship with my family is just off the charts good. And I know they probably still harbor some resentments. I've told them, I understand you carry this as long as you need to carry it,
Yeah, well, they don't get to go through a program.
I know.
We do.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes, I know I was like that when I think that's what gets a lot of people when they have the first year. When they get that year, there's that, within the group of us, when we're together, it's a big deal.
Right.
But to our families, it's like, okay, you did what you're supposed to be doing, Demi. Like,
great. Great. You didn't screw up for a year.
But
at the same time, it is a big deal, and I think it's a big deal because of the stakes involved. Again, the consequences involved.
And they see the transformation.
Yeah.
My family has.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know my wife has. I know my mother-in-law has. People, and the girls will. The more that I'm around, and more they see me and stuff, they'll see it too.
They know it because they've always. They're the.
Yeah,
that's the microscope.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, they're the ones closest to you, so they're going to see the biggest transformation.
They are. Yeah, I'm just blessed, man. I really am, and I just. Not to get too wound up in this because I'll start getting all misty eyed about it. But I just want to help people. That's where I talk about with my buddy. One of my buddies is a pastor back in Arkansas, and we've been friends since we were born. He's 4 months behind me in age, and we've never not known each other. So. Yeah, we just were talking, and he was like, how that your life is it working again that you want? Or what? I said, I want to help people. I need to I'm just looking for a way I'm still working on it. I'm trying to be of service to people through calling and stuff. But, that's why I try to shake hands and get to know people, because I want to connect with people, and I just want to see people lives improve, because I know how bad it was and how bad I felt about my life and about things, and so when I see people come in, man, it hurts my heart when they leave, when I see them leave and they don't grab on. Everyone's got to make their own choices, but man, if I could, I'd drag them all in and make them sit there for but I just want to help people. That's the end of the day. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's you living with intent, recovery with intent. My intention every day is to be sober, is not to fly by, and it just so happened that I'm sober. I have to be on guard. Guys like you and I have to be on guard, because it can slip up and it can turn bad quick.
Yep.
And just one time, that's all it's going to take. Just that one time, we could be facing those consequences. So that's living with intention. And I got to say, you are doing stuff that helps people. You are living that life that you're looking for. You are doing it. You're doing it in your own way. That's like he said. You don't have to go. Do the Oprah thing and go help people in Africa.
Right.
You doing your regular, showing up every day, showing up to meetings, speaking your mind, giving away your knowledge that you have for the 235 days.
Offering a hug.
A handshake. That's
incredible.
especially to somebody who's, you go into a room, it's so nerve wracking. Picking up a phone is one thing, but going into a room, a group meeting, and you've never been to, or maybe you have, but your work or job or your wife or something happened, and now you're showing up to this place. It's daunting. It's a big hill to climb. And so when they see you and you come over and you say hi and you're willing to talk to them, and and then they see how you interact with other people, and it's you are doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I appreciate that. I didn't, that's kind of, my wife was very helpful with me on that, because when I was about maybe 2.5, 3 months sober, right around the time I graduated, I guess, from the program, I was feeling like this heavy burden, and I was like, what is it? What do I want to,
Yeah.
And I was feeling, my wife she and I were talking about it, and she kind of just said, it doesn't have to be anything huge and monstrous. You're making it too big. Just the help that you can give to those around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to do, for most of the time I've been there. It's just meet the people that I'm around and get to know them, and because I think that's a big deal. A lot of us have isolated so much,
right,
that we don't have a lot of friends, when we get sober.
And then we don't have the skill to do it, because we've always interacted, while drunk or high.
Right. So just being a friend to someone and going out to lunch or something with them, or maybe a group, going out, it does make a difference. I can see, when I put a few of those things together with the guys, and I could see the enjoyment that they have being in just like a group of 4 or 5 and just talking, because they're comfortable talking in that group.
Yeah.
Well, like the connection with the gentleman, I'm not going to say his name because
I know,
for anonymity, but you were talking about him last night. I mean, I guarantee you have made an impact on, I've seen it on him.
Yeah.
You guys need each other.
And he, and he really, he doesn't give himself credit like he should, because he's made a big impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody, and I click with most people anyway, but we just sort of click together, and we spent all the time just being friends.
If you're talking about who I think you're talking about, you have brightened his. I seen him when he first came in, and he was, you really helped him turn that leaf, and I think he helped you too. But he really, when he started, and it was you making that initiative, that taking the initiative to get to know him and really, build that friendship. And when you did that, I mean, he, I didn't think he wasn't a guy that I looked at and said, "Oh, he gets it." Now I do.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that in the beginning. So you have had a big impact on his life.
Huge. That's it right there.
I really do love the guy. I do see, that his demeanor and his, just the way he acts when we're out in public is different than it was when we first started hanging out.
He's a different guy.
He really has
seen the transformation,
dealing with his parents, and just the way that he is able to deal with them and be, just have a softness about him that he didn't so much have before. It's not me. It's just, I helped him get to a point that he could, we talked about a lot of stuff, and getting to the point where he could open himself up in a way that he hadn't been able to do for a long time.
Yeah. Well, he was a big self-isolator.
Very, very bad.
Yes. Yeah. It's all good, but I think you're on the right track. I think it's something that, everybody knows there's a saying in the room, and that's call Paul.
Yeah.
You know, there's a,
That's funny.
you know,
Yes. I mean, I actually chuckled at that statement because I really did when they said it first. First, I was like, oh, you know, and then I thought about it. I really like that saying because that's what I want.
yeah,
And that's what I want. I want people to know that when their day goes bad, I don't care who you are. If your day is not going great, you can always call me.
yeah,
I'm retired. I'm working a little bit, but I'm never so busy I can't answer my phone.
right.
You know, no matter what I'm doing. I'm never to be. I'm like you, Chris. I leave mine on all night because, you know, I've gotten a couple of calls. One call in the middle of the night, and you know, it took me a minute to wake myself up. But once I got fully awake, we had the gentleman and I had a good conversation. He was just struggling, you know, for a moment. About 10 minutes after, he was like, you know what? I think I can go back to sleep. I think I'm good. You know, he had just had a dream and woken up in it. You know, when you're young, especially in sobriety, you'll get those dreams that
Oh yeah,
leave you feeling like, you know, you wake up triggered because, you know, you just had a dream where you woke up not knowing for sure if you were drunk or not, you know. So, yeah.
those dreams, I hardly get them now, but yeah, I remember them vividly, you know.
My last dream, I mean, I know you're talking about something else, but my last dream like that, I actually refused
That's awesome.
In the dream. I was like, you know what, I'm going to pass. And it was like, all right. And
nice.
that was
cool.
it. I was like, wow, what does this mean?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I mean, I'm no psychologist, but it feels like to me, your brain has caught on now to a point where it's like, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think nobody's healed. I don't mean that, but you know what I'm saying?
No. Yeah, no.
Like you've got that inside
There was
now.
some closure in that dream.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
not completely closed, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, there was something to that.
I just love the program. I love the people. I went to rehab once before, and I wasn't hard at it. I kind of half-assed it. I wasn't super serious about it, but I did come out of there with one buddy that he and I now have been really tight, like real close, like almost like brothers, you know, for 8 years now, you know, so. He has always known that I wasn't right, but he's never been like hard on me or cut me off or anything. He's always, we've gone to lunch, you know, a couple times a month, and he's always just talked to me. He's the only one really that has just, that I would accept that from, you know, and we go to lunch a couple times a month and we talk about our general life, but he would always throw, you know, about 2 or 3 minutes of just, hey, brother, you know, you call me any day you want to call, anytime I'm at work, I don't care. He's like, I'll leave. I'll take you to rehab. You need to get serious about it. And, so he's been a big influence on my life. His sobriety has been a real, it's a real beacon sort of in my darkness over the last few years. So, yeah, really, really, really good guy.
Yeah. It's awesome that we have those people in our lives, and now there's countless others. Now there's, you know, others that you're that beacon for. You know, that you can be that. And it's just by you saying hi. It's just by, you know, like I was getting at earlier. I know Chris is like that for me too. You know, I mean, gosh, guy has more days than I do. And, you know, he's just, there's something about him that has that, like, still that almost hunger of when you first are sober. I guess is, you know, I don't know what it is, but that's what I want to maintain, because I don't want to drink when something bad happens. I don't want to have an excuse. There's nothing in this world that I want to be bothered by so much that is going to lead me back to it.
Right.
You know, so that's why, in part, you know, I like doing these. I like going to meetings. You know, and I really appreciate you guys spending the time with me, and I know you guys have families and stuff like that, and you know, but if anything, you guys are helping me today with my sobriety, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sam, I appreciate that, but I appreciate you inviting me as well.
Yeah. You have anything else?
No. Other, you mentioned families. I think our families understand. So
Yeah.
and like I was saying, anytime I'm like, I got a meeting. They're like, all right, so you want to get back?
Yeah, it's better you there than
My wife never says a word.
Nothing.
When I say I'm going to a meeting, even if she has something that she's kind of planned, she never says, "Oh, can you miss it tonight?" No. Never. I say, "Hey, babe, I already have a meeting that I'm going to." She'll be like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than my daughter's birthday.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
That happens.
That was, but yeah, anytime I'm coming to this, I'm like, you know, oh, hey. And she sees the enthusiasm, you know, the
Good.
excitement. And that's what she, like you were saying, she wants me to keep that.
Yeah. We see it, you know, I see it in your texts. I see it in your phone calls. I see it in, you know, just your intention again is just all recovery and helping, just like Paul, you know, helping whoever you can. And, you know, you guys are, between just the two of you, the power that you guys have with the people that are around you and the connections and all that, you guys are making a big difference in somebody's life. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's it.